The wealth cycle is made up of 3 stages, at least according to some wealth managers and financial planners. Those 3 stages are called accumulation, preservation, and distribution. Now, I'm gonna tell you what these 3 stages mean, but spoiler alert, in this video, I'm actually gonna be talking you through a whole different stage, because I think that this wealth cycle was a FUBU situation made by old white dudes. You know, it was made for us, by us. Because I don't think they were really thinking about everyone who's starting from ground zero, who didn't come from wealth, yet wants to build wealth. So before we get to that, real quick, what are these 3 stages of wealth in the wealth cycle? Accumulation is the phase when you're building and growing wealth. You're working, you're earning money, and you're using that money to save and invest. You're putting that money in investments. Now, the main question that you typically ask yourself during this stage is, how much do I need to save and invest to retire? Now, the next stage, preservation, is sort of a transition phase, and it's the years that you're prepping for retirement and you are preserving your accumulated wealth. So during the preservation stage, what you're asking yourself is, do I have enough to retire? And how can I preserve my wealth to make sure that I'm ready to retire? Then finally, distribution is the stage when you start to distribute your assets, distribute your wealth, both to yourself in the form of retirement income and also to your loved ones, just finally using your money for the things that you saved it for. The questions that you would ask yourself in this phase are, do I have enough to last me the rest of my lifetime? And what do I want to leave to others? So pretty straightforward, right? You build wealth, you hold on to it until you're ready to use it. But wait, what happens if you can barely stay afloat? How do you even accumulate wealth? How is it possible for someone to participate in this cycle if they don't even know how to start building wealth? At least for me personally, this whole wealth cycle would have never made sense to me for 4 reasons. Number 1, I didn't come from money. So if you also add student loans into the mix, I started my adulthood in the negative like many others do. Number 2, I was broke in my 20s. My first salary was barely enough to pay my rent living in Los Angeles, so times were hard. I wasn't thinking about how to accumulate wealth. Number 3, I was never taught what it meant to build wealth. No financial literacy in school, and didn't really understand what it meant to invest or build wealth. So when I did start making money, I was spending it on shiny new things instead of investing. And 4, because I was not given the tools to build wealth, I didn't actually know it was possible for me. So for a long time, my money mindset was not in the right place. So it's like, yeah, wealthy people are building generational wealth because they have this cycle. They accumulate, they preserve, they distribute, rinse and repeat for the next generation. Now, everybody else who's not in this wealth cycle is typically stuck in another cycle, one that's not as great. That cycle is being stressed out about money, making a little bit of money, then using that money to de-stress, which leaves you with little money, so then now you're stressed about money. 2 different cycles, 2 different sets of people. So how then, Lisa, can we build wealth if we're starting from nothing or from very little? Well, I believe that there is a pre-stage that has to happen before many people can jump into this whole wealth cycle and start accumulating. And that is what I call the foundational stage. Now, something interesting about this 3-stage wealth cycle that I believe the rich white people made, and that is that there are some baked-in assumptions about what age you are at each phase. For example, accumulation, theoretically, is in your 20s, 30s, 40s, when you get into working age and you're starting to accumulate and build wealth. Preservation starts somewhere in your 50s or 60s because you're gearing up for retirement. And then distribution happens when you're in retirement, which in modern society is somewhere in your 60s or 70s. At least the traditional view of retirement. So what's interesting about this foundational stage that I'm going to talk to you about next is there's no age really attached to it. In an ideal world, it would happen in your childhood and into your early adulthood, so that when you really start making money, you can just go ahead and jump into the accumulation phase. But as you know, most people don't learn about money until later, if they ever do. Literally, by the time most of us learn about money management and investing and building wealth, there's a whole entire phase of playing catch up. That catching up is a mix of learning new information, unlearning any inaccurate information, building good money habits, and also having to unlearn bad money habits that we've picked up along the way. So once we finally get that wake-up call to improve our finances, it sometimes gets really overwhelming because there's a lot to do and we already feel like we're behind and out of time. So what I want you to know is this foundational stage doesn't have a set time frame. You technically start on it when you start making smarter money decisions and when you start to become intentional about building wealth. And that could be right now, today, the turning point when you start this foundational stage. And that is why I'm glad you're here. You clicked on this video called How to Build Wealth Starting with Nothing, which tells me that either you have very little money, very little guidance on how to build wealth, or a mixture of both, but you want to figure out how to be a part of this wealth cycle. Or maybe you're just curious because you saw my really cool thumbnail with the little diagrams and you clicked it. So let's take a look at this foundational stage. So here's what I'm talking about when I say that there's a foundational stage. Because a lot of people, if you are barely holding on and don't have enough even for your day-to-day life, you feel limited, you feel broke, you're not gonna automatically be in that accumulating wealth stage. You're gonna be struggling with your finances to some degree. So this foundational stage, regardless of where you're at, has three main components to it. And that is building awareness, taking action, and learning along the way, which leads you to wealth. Now, my framework digs a lot into the money mindset and emotions behind it all. So in my mind, for someone who has no personal finance experience, maybe someone who didn't come from money, maybe someone who struggles with money, there's a component of feelings. And a lot of times people feel stressed, they feel limited, they feel broke. Is broke a feeling? The goal is that as you progress through this foundational stage, you start to get to the point where you start feeling secure and abundant and you start feeling free. You're able to do more things because you have those financial foundations in place. Now, the first bit of it, building awareness, has a lot of meanings. To me, awareness kind of starts with you realizing that there are gaps in your financial knowledge, or there are things in your financial situation that need to change. Maybe you need to build better money habits. And a big part of that is more likely than not going to be financial literacy. Learning the things that you didn't learn growing up or even in adulthood, and finding those resources so you can learn what actions to take. So actions can be everything from building your emergency fund to being a smarter spender. I'm going to talk about that more in the next section of the video, but I just wanted to give you this picture of what this stage is, because I think if you can get through this, then at the end of it, you're going to end up jumping right into that wealth cycle where you are accumulating wealth, preserving it, distributing it to whoever you want to distribute it to, and then the next generation, whoever you hand off that wealth to, can have a running start in the accumulation and yada yada yada. Now, if you're ready to jump into this foundational stage so that you can start building wealth regardless of where you're at, let's talk some logistics. I'm going to run through 5 tips to get you going, but ultimately it boils down to being intentional about your knowledge, so your financial literacy, being intentional about taking actions, which are your actual money habits, and it requires that you need motivation, which is going to come from your money mindset and your overall life goals. If financial security and building wealth are a goal, then you'll find the motivation to do that. All right, on to the tips. Number 1, commit to learning about personal finance each week, even if it's just 30 minutes a week. Some ideas are you can subscribe to a personal finance podcast. Here are some suggestions off the top of my head: NerdWallet's Smart Money, Yo Quiero Dinero, FYI Fly, Rich Habits, Money Confidential. There's so many more out there, but these are ones that I really like, especially for learning some of the more basic stuff. Podcasts aside, obviously you can subscribe to YouTube channels like mine. Quick plug, because I didn't introduce myself earlier. My name is Lissa Prudencio, and I'm an accredited financial counselor committed to helping more people, more women of color build wealth. All right, back to the regularly scheduled programming. Another way that you can learn about finances in just 30 minutes a week is to pick up a personal finance book. Now, let me get you some quick recommendations because they're behind me. Hold on.
A few moments later.
All right. Okay, I have videos that talk about all of these, but here are a couple. Money Out Loud. I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Finance for the People. Broke Millennial. Okay? Let me go put these back. All right. So, moving on, tip number 2, start building your emergency fund. If you don't know what that is, then make sure you watch this video up here. This is pretty much, in my opinion, the first step to building your foundation. Get it? That's why it's the foundational stage, because you gotta build that foundation, otherwise everything else is gonna crumble. Number 3, review your cash flow. So cash flow is very closely related to your budget, but it's specifically looking at your money in versus money out in hindsight. So spend and income that has already happened. You can check out this video if you need help with getting started on tracking your finances and your cash flow. Number 4, bring mindfulness to your spending. You need to understand what you value and ensure that every spending decision you make is aligned with those values and those goals. Number 5, create a debt payoff plan. You can pick from the debt snowball or the debt avalanche method, but make sure that if you have any debts, that you are intentionally paying them off in an accelerated way. So those are just 5 of the many things that you can do in this foundational stage. So I would say pick 2 or 3 of them and get started. Don't overwhelm yourself, but just get started. And obviously, to make sure you stay on track in your wealth journey, I am here to support you. So don't forget to subscribe and drop some love in the comments. Always open to your questions. Just let me know. Until next time, peace out.